And Batman's like, hey, Robin, has anyone solved the video game, The Maze? And he's like, nah, it's like Dark Souls. This is like the Dark Souls versions of puzzle games, Chad. Batman's like, fuck! I hate those Dark Souls games. Hello, and thank you for checking out the video. I just want to let you know that I not only create content on my YouTube channel, Class in the Glass, but I'm also on Twitch, where I review movies, cartoons, and TV shows live, while also playing single-player games and multiplayer games. I also have a Patreon where subscribers have access to hundreds of video and audio commentaries for films and cartoons, as well as podcasts and videocasts. In the meantime, thank you again for watching. Enjoy the video. But, Chad, the reviews continue on, because now we're going to be doing a scene-by-scene breakdown for Batman, the Animated Series, Episode 40, chat. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Which introduces the character of Edward Nygma, chat, the Riddler, which apparently Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, a number of the other writers and creators of Batman Animated Series, really disliked using. And they said that they never knew how to use the Riddler. Which, to me, it's like, you have the most, at this point in history, at this point in time, chat, you know, nearly 30 years later, you know, their Batman has been the most detective-oriented Batman adaptation ever, which is one of the great things about this version of the character, which I love, which has been made this Batman series my favorite adaptation of the character of all time. I love that they really leaned into the detective aspects. And so it was always weird to me that apparently they just struggled or really didn't know what to do with Edward Nygma, because it's like, well, he's the perfect guy for a detective Batman. Batman has to solve all these riddles. He has to follow these clues and these mysteries. And I don't know, it's weird. This episode, I can tell that they were confused about how to use this character, because in this episode, like, Riddler, he's a video game programmer, like, that's his thing, and he gets swindled because he signed the wrong contract, and he apparently didn't know that, which is like, but he's like supposed to be very intelligent, so why wouldn't he? There's just a lot of weird things in this episode. Also, the animation is off. I don't know if they were like, oh, we're rushing for time and they have to cut some corners, but they use so many still images for the characters, which they kind of used in some earlier episodes of Batman Animated Series. But by the time they worked on this one, this was episode 40 on the production schedule, and episode 41 when they released it on TV. And so it's just odd. If you watch this, it just, based on the previous 10 episodes, the animation is like, oh, this looks really good, it's really smooth. And all of a sudden you come to this one, it's just kind of weird. Yeah, maybe they're just like, yeah, we don't know what to fucking do with this character. It's just, yeah, not my favorite adaptation of the Riddler. Although the character, I believe, is voiced by Julian Glover, chat, which you might not know the name, but he's been in a lot of DC and comic book stuff for years. He played the mad scientist in Batman and Robin. He played Alexander Luthor in Smallville, and he played the father of what's his name? Mark Strong's character in Shazam, chat, Dr. Savannah. He played his dad, who then gets eaten by like a bunch of gargoyle-looking monsters in that boardroom scene. That's him. This guy's been involved in a lot of DC projects for a while. The Batman cartoon also personally used the Riddler. Yeah, I don't know why. I was like, if I could write a Batman comic, I would use the Riddler. Just because I like the whole idea that he wants to match not fisticuffs of Batman, but his mind. But it's always been so weird to me that people have struggled to adapt this character. Like, when they have done adaptations, especially live action, they've always tried to make him more like the Joker, which is what Jim Carrey obviously did for Batman Forever. That's why I'm very excited to see Paul Dano's take on the character, and now he's more of a serial killer. He's more of like the Zodiac Killer. Which I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And so I'm very excited to see. Oh, is it John Glover? Excuse me, not Julian Glover. His name is John Glover. My apologies. John Glover, who's the voice of the Riddler for this, and he's been in a bunch of DC adaptations as well. He played Lionel Luthor. Oh, shit. Lionel Luthor, and he had Dad and Shazam. God, I thought it was Alexander Luthor. Okay. Thank you, Chad. No, that's why you guys are here. You got to correct me. And I appreciate that. But, yeah, whatever reason, it's a very odd episode. They lead into the riddle stuff, but a lot of, the Riddler's resources are insurmountable, Chad. I'm like, what he was able to construct and do in this episode is kind of ridiculous. But we got to get into it, Chad. We got to get into it. And we start, Chad. at this video game company called Cryocron, or whatever the hell it's called. And we're introduced the character of Edward Nygma. He is the lead programmer for the most popular video game of all time at this point, called The Riddle of the Minotaur. And this company is making billions of dollars off of this video game, chat. They're about to open amusement parks. There's going to be fucking film adaptations or cartoon adaptations. And Edward Nygma, he's smelling himself, chat. He's walking the office doing his fucking crossword, solved it, like in the span of 10 minutes. He throws that shit in the waste bin. It's like, all right, that was a good morning. Okay, let's get to making some video games. But he goes to his office, shit, and he can't get in. The door's locked, and he sees that his name's been taken off the door, and he goes to the fucking custodian. It's like, what's going on? This is my office. Why can't I get in? He's like, it was your office, Mr. Nygma. And he throws it in, chat, and we hear, ha, 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 ha. And we see Mr. Mockridge, chat, and he's mocking. Get it? He's mocking Edward Nygma, and he's like, Mockridge, why are you laughing at me? And he's like, didn't you know, Nygma, that you signed a contract for hire, a work for hire contract, you silly son of a bitch, and that means I can fire you at any time. It's like, is that true? And so apparently, this is the video game industry for you, Chad. This is the first time where we really see the toxic work environment of the video game industry, because I guess the Riddler, Edward Nygma, who is extremely intelligent, chat, and yes, very vain, very egotistical. That's always his weakness, is his vanity and his ego, chat. But he didn't look at the fine print of his contract. He just signed that shit. And apparently he also signed away the copyright to the game, and he gets no royalties from it, and he's also been fired, which I'm pretty sure is like really illegal, chat. Really illegal. But, what are you going to do? And he's like, get out of here. And then Edward Nygma is like, ooh, I swear vengeance upon you, Mockridge. It shall be I that will be mocking you, good sir. And then it's 2 years later. Chat. And again, Riddle of the Minotaur is still the biggest video game of all time. It's selling gangbusters. And now, apparently, the company that Mockridge represents, they want to move all their stuff to Gotham City, and Bruce, they want to be a part of the Wayne Enterprises. That's what they want to do, because Wayne Enterprise, they want to get involved in video games and also bring $5.5 million worth of jobs to the city. And so Mockridge is doing this super fucking boring presentation to Bruce Wayne and to Lucius Fox, and they're just fucking sitting there going like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, this guy just won't shut up. Like, Bruce he's not a big video game fan, and neither is Lucius. But all of a sudden, as Mockridge is going over his PowerPoint and all the amusement parks and all the film adaptations they want to do, he sees across the way a big old fucking electronic billboard, chat. And on the billboard it said, why do multi-billion-dollar deals break down in the wasteland? He starts fucking panicking. He's like, oh, and he drops all of his cue cards and shit. And Bruce and Lucius are like, excuse me, Mr. Mockridge, are you okay? He's like, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I need to get going. I need to leave. And Lucius and Bruce, they turn around, and Bruce reads the thing on the screen. He's like, why do multi-billion-dollar deals break down the wasteland? What's that have to do with anything? Eventually, we cut to the Batcave, chat, where Bruce, he's still thinking about the riddle. Well, Robin he so happens to be playing the Riddle of the Minotaur game. Even he's playing it, chap. And, like, Alfred comes over, and Alfred's like, wow, Master Dick, that must be a pretty fun computer game that you're playing to play on a $50 million computer. Which I'm like, that bad computer, chat, costs $50 million. Jesus Christ. And Dick Grayson, he just starts explaining the game to Alfred. He's like, oh, it's actually a really fun game, Alfred. You see, it's kind of dealing with Greek mythology. You got to work through this maze, and you have to, you're fighting against all these different kind of enemies. You have the Griffin, which doesn't allow you to go backwards at all, so you always have to keep moving forward. And at certain points, you encounter these various riddles, and like this one riddle comes up, and it's like it's a map puzzle where it's like from this location across the globe, what is the best path to take. Gives you a couple options. It's like it's a curved line, it's a straight line, it's a zigzag line. And Dick Grayson's like, well, it's obviously a fucking straight line. He picks straight line. Wrong answer. And he's like, oh no. And Bruce says it's a curved line because it's on a goddamn globe. And Robin's like, well, you know everything, don't you, Batman? And all of a sudden, this fucking massive hand comes and grabs the character and moves him around. And Alfred's like, what the hell is that, Master Dick? And he's like, well, that's the hand of fate. anytime you get a wrong answer, this thing will just grab you and put you on a different part of the map. And at this point, Batman's like, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. And he's like, really, Bruce? He's like, yeah, the maker of the game, Edward Nygma. He's the one who's threatening Mr. Mockbridge. He's mocking him, if you will. And clearly he's taking him to the Wasteland. He's like, Bruce, how the fuck did you just figure that all out? Well, the Wasteland is a club that Mockridge owns, right? And clearly, this is a disgruntled employee, and I've read in the files, and that disgruntled employee is Edward Nygma, who must be this person behind everything, Dick. Maybe if you didn't spend so much time fucking playing video games and decided to be a fucking superhero / detective, you would solve these things too. And he's like, Jesus, Batman, don't have to be so mean. He's like, put on the goddamn green tights and let's go. And so they get in the Batmobile, they drive away. Eventually, we cut to Mockridge, who owns the Wasteland Club. Shit, he goes in. The whole club's like, it's like this is the fucking middle of the night at Gotham. Like the club, like no one's operating this club at all. Maybe it's going under, chat. Maybe it's just not doing well. But he goes in there and he goes up to his office, chat. And who's fucking sitting in his office chair? It's the Riddler. It's the Riddler. But he doesn't know that. He's like, Nygma, is that you? He just goes, wouldn't you like to know, Mockridge? And he's like, listen, Eddie, listen, pal, all right? I don't care for these threats, all right? I won't stand for it, and neither will the company. And he's like, listen, Mockridge, I'll leave you alone, and I'll never bother you again if you solve this ring puzzle. And it's the ring puzzle, chat, that has, like, it's, like, in all sorts of, like, loops and stuff. And it's like, all right, so you got to, like, get each ring out of the loop. And he's like, okay. But Mockridge is a fucking idiot. And so he accidentally, like, handcuffs himself. He's like, oh. And then these two big thugs come out, and they just start pummeling the shit on Mockridge as the Riddler just goes, he just starts laughing. And so they're dragging down Mockridge's beaten body down the stairs of the club until fucking Batman and Robin, they just break through the moonroof, and they just come crashing down. Bruce is like, that's kind of weird. There's like no one in the club in Gotham at night. This club must not be doing well. I think Mockridge is kind of like flubbing the details of his company's success. I don't like this. This is not a good deal. But then he sees the fucking Riddler on the staircase, and then we get there's multiple shots, and it's weird to me. There's multiple shots in this episode where it's just a still image and no one is moving, and all the thing they animate is the mouth of the character, and the Riddler's just like a painting, and he goes, Batman, I wondered when I'd confront you when our paths would cross. He's like, I know it's you, Edward Nygma. And he's like, shit, how'd you figure that out? I mean, it's kind of obvious. You're a known disgruntled employee. You created the game. Mockridge shut you out of all the royalties. I mean, I feel for you, man. I get that. But this isn't the way. And he's like, Batman, usually I don't want to match fists with fists. I prefer a mind v mind, but I got these two powerful thugs, and they'll beat the shit out of you. Get them, boys! And so the thugs go after Batman and Robin. And the thing is, again, the animation is weird here. It's not as smooth as previous episodes before this shit. Like, I just recently watched, I did episode reviews for Heart of Steel Part 1 and Part 2, and the animation was great. I just loved how the characters are moving, the fight sequences and the choreography, especially with the robots, where they're like all spider-like and going, Rah! Like, I loved all that. And here it's like something's off. I don't know what happened this episode, but something's wrong with it. But they're doing the whole fight sequence, and, Batman and Robin, they kick the shit out of the thugs. Wow, they, Edward, where Nygma, he ties up Mockridge to the door. Leading to the outside, the exit door. And then a fire starts. Oh, that's the thing. Riddler, he starts like all the features of the club. And so apparently it's a disco themed club. There's a disco ball and there's fireworks on the inside. And he launches the fireworks and the place starts fucking burning down. And then the Riddler has a cane and he shoots his cane and it ejects a giant Chinese finger trap. You know those Chinese finger traps? You put your fingers in, you pull them like that, you can't get out. Well, it's a giant one that completely envelops and vores Robin, and the more he struggles, the more it constricts him. He's like, and he can't do anything. And Riddler's like, okay, it's either me or the bird, Batman, your choice. And he just fucking runs away, and Batman's like, God damn it. And the thing is, Dick Grayson is panicking so much, he accidentally sets himself on fire. And so Batman has to grab Robin and run out of the club and then pat him down. And Robin's like, did we get him? Did we get him? He's like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And so then they go back into the Batmobile and they start driving. they're, Batman's like, how did you know? This is crazy that he's just doing this, and it's all over these fucking puzzles, Batman. You think we'll be able to beat him? He's like, I'll beat the shit out of this guy. He annoys the hell out of me. But as they drive in, Chad, apparently the Riddler has taken control of the entire electrical grid of Gotham City, and all the lights start going on and off, on and off, on and off. It causes massive destruction. Cars are crashing into each other, Chad, because the traffic lights, they're all going red, green, yellow, all that shit. It's chaos. It's chaos in Gotham, which is actually a kind of horrifying concept. The thing is, Batman, he's watching the lights. He's like, that's fucking Morse code. He's doing Morse code. All right. And he looks and he gets the Morse code. He has a little back computer wrist thing, and he translates the Morse code, and it says this: when is the Minotaur's owner as high as an elephant's eye? And fucking Robin's like, what does that even mean? And Batman, he's like, corn. He's like, what the corn? What are you talking about, Batman? He's like, it's a song lyric way before your time. So I'm pretty much robbing the situation. I would have been fucked. Like, the Riddler would have killed Mockridge at this point. Chad would not be able to stop the Riddler. He's using song lyrics. He would find that out. It'd be my weakness. And he says it's corn. It's corn. And it's a song lyric. And he's like, okay, so Mockridge he's saying that Mockridge is corny? That he's kernely, and Batman's like, it must be another word for corn. Maze, chat, maze, because that's what corn was called. Maze. And he's like, he's in the maze in the new amusement park that's being built around, chat, right? The Riddle of the Minotaur, and he must be there. It's like, okay. If you say it's Korn, the heavy metal band, fucking Batman listening to the Korn would be actually amazing. Just screaming and shit. And so they get to we also cut to the electrical grid of Gotham City where the Riddler is. And he's like, I'm sure that got Batman's attention. And this one thug he has, thug number one, we got thug number one, thug number two. And thug number one goes up to the Riddler and he says, sir, we already have Mockridge. Why don't we just kill him? We already have it. Why don't we got what we want? And the Riddler goes, well, Batman knows who I am. And he figured it out very easily. I think anyone could have figured out that Edward Nygma was the Riddler. And so I got to make sure that I also kill Batman and Robin so they don't tell anybody else. And they're like, okay. And so then we cut to the amusement park. And they walk into, there's the biggest attraction, which is they actually built a replica of the Riddle of the Minotaur, which families can then do and then get lost in, and the kids would cry. It'd be horrible. But they all get there, and the Riddler's projected himself in the giant screen. He's like, you solved my latest riddle, Batman and Robin. But will you be able to survive my maze and reach Mockridge? He only has 15 minutes to live before the Minotaur itself executes him. And they're like, all right. And so they go to the maze, and Batman's like, hey, Robin, has anyone solved the video game, the maze? And he's like, nah, it's like Dark Souls. This is like the Dark Souls versions of puzzle games, Chad. Batman's like, fuck, I hate those Dark Souls games. And so they go in there, they go into the maze, and they keep walking until eventually this giant fucking robotic golden griffin appears. And Batman's like, what is that? And Robin's like, that's the griffin. So with that, the only thing, it doesn't attack you. It just prevents you from ever going backwards. The thing is, apparently the Riddler is upgraded and he built in a flamethrower. And so he's like, correct, Robin, but I've made my alteration to the design, an update, if you will. Day one patch, if you will, chat. And this thing starts shooting fire at him. We're like, oh, goddamn. And they run. They run as fast as they can. They come to a crossroads, chat. One crossroads, which just has a question mark. The other one, which says losers ahead. And they're like, which way? Let's go left. And they go down the losers ahead path. And Batman and Robin are like, what are losers ahead? And all these fucking these spinning blades shoot out right at their heads. And they go, oh, it's a bad pun. Losers lose ahead. Get it? And Riddler's like, one of my favorite puns. Riddler loves doing puns in this episode, chat. Eventually, Riddler says, what's the best kind of corporate executive, Batman? Batman's like, I don't know, you tell me. A dead one, because it's like they have not that much time left, chat. They only got 8 fucking minutes left before the Minotaur kills Mockridge. And so eventually, as they keep walking, they encounter the Hand of Fate, chat, which is this giant golden flying hand that will literally grab onto them and take them around the map. At one other point, oh yeah, there's another puzzle, and it's completely in Arabic, and it's talking about like food. It's like, how do Arabs prepare and eat their meals? And Batman's like, what? I don't know. And then he starts to think, he's like, oh shit, he's talking about the Arab world. It's right. We got to go right, because they eat all their food with their right hands, and so they have to take the right path, chat, instead of the left path. Eventually, they get to a door that's locked, and there's 3 keys. There's an A key, a C key, and a D key, chat. And they're like, we'll try the D key. They try the D key, and then all of a sudden, these giant, like, spears just come shooting out at them. And then they try the A key, chat. They do that, more spears. And no, it's actually... Before they take the A key, Dick Grayson's like, no, I've done this puzzle. I know what this puzzle is. The C key, take the C key, Batman, just before he's about to use A. And he puts the C key in there, and he's like, how do you know that, Robin? And it's a music puzzle, Batman, because there are D sharps, there are A sharps, but there's no C sharps. And Batman's like, music! And so he then goes into... They then go into the this next pathway, but the hand is still fucking chasing him at this point. And Robin's like, Batman, we got it. Okay, that's the puzzle that's coming up here. And it's the one that Robin failed at. It's like, what's the shortest distance from one location to another on a globe? It's not a straight line, chat. It's a curved line, because it's a globe, because it's round. And Robin's like, we gotta go this way, Batman. Batman's like, I'm gonna go this way, because I want to. And Robin's like, Batman, what are you doing? And then Batman is literally grabbed by the Hand of Fate. But thankfully, chat, the Hand of Fate has never fought with Batman. Batman just takes his fucking fist and punches into the Hand of Fate and hacks it. He hacks it, and now he's riding on top of it. He grabs Robin, and they go all the way to the middle of the maze. And Riddler's like, fuck you guys, you're cheating, you're cheaters. Ooh, he's very upset. But then he's like, well, even though you've managed to cheat your way through my maze, you still need to solve my final riddle before the Minotaur executes Mockridge. He's like, oh my fucking God. He's peed himself. He's pooped himself. He just smells like shit and urine. Horrifically traumatized at this point by the Riddler and his thugs, and also the Minotaur is about to execute him. But this is the final riddle, chat, and this is how it goes. I have billions of eyes, yet I live in darkness. I have billions of ears, yet only 4 lobes. I have no muscle, yet I rule 2 hemispheres. What am I? And Batman's like, it's the only thing you fucking respect, Riddler, a brain. And it's like, oh, it's true. A fucking brain has 4 lobes. It's always in darkness, chat, but it has billions of ears and eyes. And it's like, oh, I see. And so the Minotaur shuts down. But then Riddler's like, ooh, you may have foiled me, Batman, but the Minotaur still yearns for your blood. And the Minotaur robot reactivates, and then it attacks Mockridge, Batman, and Robin. And then fucking Batman, he has a little riddle for the Riddler, and he says, how do you take out a Minotaur with a single blow? And he just fucking shoots all of his gadgets at it, and it just explodes through a wall. But it comes out again. It's like, oh shit, you need one more blow there, Batman. But one was enough, chat. You just gotta throw your entire arsenal, random bullshit attack, and the Minotaur just falls down dead. And Batman's like, I've got you, Riddler. It's over. He's like, well, Batman, as you know, I'm not actually here. I've been talking to you on the screen. Matter of fact, I'm on a plane right now leaving Gotham City, so I guess I'll see you next episode. Bye. And we see the Riddler, chat, on a plane, and he gets away, which I think is a recurring gag in the series. The Riddler is like one of the few villains that keeps escaping Batman like all the time, and he leaves Gotham City. Eventually, chat, we then cut... And we're at the home at Wayne Manor. It's weeks after the events of the Riddler case. And the computer company that Mockridge represents has been sold to Wayne Enterprises, chat. Wayne Enterprises is now doing video game development, chat. They brought $5.5 million worth of jobs to Gotham City, chat. Hopefully they won't institute a culture of crunch or underpay their employees, chat. Hopefully Wayne Enterprises, they'll make some good games too. Because this fucking company, I think they're called Compatron or whatever. They just been making Riddle the Minotaur games. Like, make something new, goddammit, you're a publisher. But, you know, Robin's like, you know, I'm still kind of upset that, you know, the Riddler got away, Batman. And that Mockridge, he's a piece of shit. I mean, he made $10 million from the deal. And Bruce is like, well, Robin, The thing is, even though he made $10 million, he's going to live the rest of his life in absolute fear. Because then we cut to Mockridge at his apartment, and he has like a billion fucking locks on his door, and he's like balding now, and he's constantly sweating. He looks amazing. He's got a shotgun in hand, chat, and he's checking like every nook and cranny of his, of his penthouse before finally crawling in bed and just still not able to sleep. And then Batman, Bruce Wayne asked Dick Grayson, how much is a good night's rest? And it's like, well, I don't think it's enough, chat. I don't think apparently more than $10 million, chat, because then Mockridge spends the rest of his remaining days in absolute fear of the return of the Riddler. And that, my friends, is my scene by scene breakdown for Batman the Animated Series episode 40. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? And there you go. There you go, chat. This is why Superman works alone. But I hope you enjoyed that review, my friends. It's weird. It's a weird episode, though, I will say. It's a weird episode just in terms of the animation, and they make the Riddler pretty corny with all of his just puns. It's like, I could have done this better. Yeah. Yeah, I think it gets even worse like in the third season when they change the animation style. Yeah, not a fan. Speaking of the comics, some time ago, an issue of Batman, the artist modeled the entrance to the Riddler's hideout after Casinopolis from Sonic Adventure. Oh, really? It's old and abandoned. It even has the hint monitor at the door. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. Look at that. Yeah, some Sonic in my Batman shit. Who would have thought? Is that the equivalent of chocolate and peanut butter? You tell me. But I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's Toon Review, chef, for Yu Yu Hakusho episode 11 and Batman the Animated Series episode 40.